There shall never be another season of silence until women have the same rights as men on this green earth. Susan B. Anthony. On July 19, 1848, the first ever American feminist protest, where Susan B. Anthony and many other reformers encountered change and exchanged opinions, and the beginning of the women's suffrage reform era took place at Seneca Falls, New York. This date began a revolution which furthered into new rights and opportunities for all women of today. In the 19th century, most women would work at home. Their work would involve cleaning, cooking, and caring for the children. Their rights were limited. In fact, they didn't have very many rights at all, fewer than criminals even. They could not vote, yet they had to obey the laws that they had no say in how they were made. This includes taxation without representation, which single women had, even though they were always paid less than a man. Women who were married had no legal rights over their bodies, wages, and property. Also, their husbands could beat and imprison them. If they became divorced, they could never see their children again. They also were not allowed to go to college or university, could not be a minister of religion, or dress even a little bit like a man. They would be considered a complete outcast. They were also told to be ladylike, meaning that they should only make their views known by gently and quietly conversing with their male family members or husbands. These things destroyed women's self-confidence and self-respect. This had made them willing to lead slow, dependent lives. They wouldn't dare to speak to other women about how they felt. Gradually, however, they began to speak out about topics such as anti-slavery, religion, welfare, alcohol abuse, and, of course, suffrage. The Seneca Falls Convention of 1848 was the first ever women's rights convention founded by Elizabeth Cady Stanton and co-founded by Lucretia Mott, held in Seneca Falls, New York. Over 300 women and 40 men went to this convention to discuss the rights of women. The most famous document written there was the Declaration of Sentiments, which, just like a few other documents made there, tried to give women the right to vote. This Declaration of Sentiments listed 15 things that women were distraught about. This document was signed by 68 women and 32 men, roughly one-third of the people who showed up to the convention. This document included complaints about all of the things mentioned earlier about how women were treated unfairly. One idea that was exchanged and highly believed in at the convention was that if women were to be taxed and treated like a citizen, they should also have the same rights as one, including, but not limited to, voting. Post-convention, Anthony was put on trial in Rochester, New York, for attempting to vote for Ulysses S. Grant in the presidential election. One quote recorded from this trial was, "The only chance women have for justice in this country is to violate the law, as I have done and shall continue to do." It is obvious that she has an influential grit, bravery, and strong will, but not every suffragist was brave enough to do this. This is why Anthony is seriously one of the best examples for women of today. Don't forget what you believe in was her message, and perform it with not only grace, but guts. Eventually, women became more public with the idea of their rights and how they feel once they noticed that women like Anthony spoke out. A poem from the book, Are Women People? A book of rhymes from suffrage times by Alice Joy Miller, simply titled Women, expresses how a certain suffragist felt about their rights becoming more and more non-existent. It sums up how men didn't care for women until they needed them for payments. They only needed women in the home and are treated as if they are incompetent. The writer looks men right in the eye, saying, "We are not really senseless, and we are not angels too, but very human beings, human just as much as you." Today, Susan B. Anthony's house is up for people to come and have luncheon. The website of it opens up to all, saying, "Never stopping in her quest for humans' rights, not for illness, not for age, not for opposition, not for disappointments." Susan B. Anthony inspires us still to be all we can be at every age of our lives. This is still so relevant because it goes to show that even long after her death, her and her ideas are remembered and loved. Elizabeth Cady Stanton believed that the convention was revolutionary toward the future, even though it got negative views from the press. She said, "It will start women thinking, and men too. And when men and women think about a new question, the first step in progress is taken." And she was right. The Declaration of Sentiments made at the convention became the blueprint for the women's rights movement and for the suffrage movement, which soon gained national attention. Stanton, 32 at the time of the convention, spent the rest of her life fighting for the right to vote. When the 19th Amendment, aka the Susan B. Anthony Amendment, gave them the right to vote, was ratified in August 1920, only one of the women who had signed the Seneca Falls Declaration of Sentiments was actually still alive. Her name was Charlotte Woodard Pierce, and she was 92 years old. Unfortunately, on Election Day in 1920, Pierce was ill and unable to vote. At the time of the Seneca Falls Convention, she was as young as 19 and a glove maker, sewing pieces at home sent to her by a manufacturer. Although almost no women from the first ever feminist convention were there to vote when they were first given the right to, their efforts were obviously still applauded today. On that day of July 19, 1848, Anthony and many other reformers marked the beginning of the women's suffrage reform era at Seneca Falls, New York. This revolutionary day rocketed into new opportunities for women of all kinds today by the suffragists exchanging ideas and writing petitions to speak their mind to people of authority and meeting up with each other to exchange the belief in the Reformation and voting and basically equality as a whole. The people of the Seneca Falls Convention, such as Anthony, are heroes to all women who today can vote, can get high-paying jobs, and receive better education. They created a new hope for all women of the future, one ballot at a time.